Myself, Hariva Prasad Damarla, retired Deputy General Manager, BSNL, and ex-adjunct professor, EC Department, PSMR College of Engineering and Technology, Vijayawada, AP. In this session, we will continue our discussion on GSM architecture. First, we will see the BSS, base station subsystem. BSS comprising of BTS and BSC together is responsible for communicating with the mobile stations in a certain area. So this BTSS and BSC together, they are responsible for communicating with the mobile stations in their respective areas. BTS comprises of radio transmission and reception devices, including the antenna and also signal processing specific to radio interface. Apart from that, BTS will have radio transceivers and it will have antenna for receiving and transmitting the signal in between the base station and the mobile stations, and it will also have the provision for radio signal processing. Each BTS will have number of GSM radio frequencies. These frequencies support voice and data communication between the mobile station and BTS. More the number of GSM frequencies in a BTS, greater the traffic handling capacity of the BTS. Each BTS will have more than one radio channel, radio frequency. More the channels a BTS is provided with, the more the communications that are possible from the specific base station. BSC is the only intelligent unit in BSS. Number of BTSs are parented to BSC. So BSC is the main intelligent network element in the BSS portion. BSS portion is BTS plus BSC. So entire control and processing activities will be carried out by BSC. BTS, they have to follow the instructions given by the base station controller. Network switching subsystem. NSS consists of main switch, which is like a normal telephone exchange, popularly known as MSC or MSTO, as well as some databases needed for subscriber data and mobility management. So the MSC network subsystem will consist of main switch, telephone switch, mobile telephone switch, which is known as MSC or MSTO. Apart from that, it will have certain databases to maintain the data of the users and their mobility from one place to other place. MSC, Mobile Switching Center, is the main unit of the NSS. It is the switch or the exchange for the mobile network, which does the call handling, routing of the calls. So this MSC will take care of, this is the main component of the network subsystem. So it will take care of the call processing and routing to the required destination. MSC is also connected to other MSCs of the same LSA, local switching area, to support calls within the same LSA. LSA can be considered as state as the unit. Each state represents one local switching area. So the MSCs located in different locations within the state are interconnected for communication or calls among these three MSC areas. For example, BSNL is having their MSCs in Andhra Pradesh at Visakhapatnam, Guntur, and Tirupati. So these three, they are divided into three main areas. So these three MSCs are interconnected for the calls in between these three MSCs. Similarly, the MSC is also connected to MSCs for exchanges of the other networks like landline exchanges and MSCs of other operators to support the call routing to and from the other networks. This MSC is generally known as Gateway MSC, GMSC. This is the Gateway MSC. Suppose a mobile GSM user makes a call to a landline telephone number of the same service provider, so there should be some connectivity. Similarly, when the mobile user makes a call to any other landline service provider, so there should be some provision for interconnectivity. Similarly, when the mobile user of a telecom service provider makes calls to any other mobile service provider, so there should be interconnectivity. All the interconnectivity with external networks like landline and other operators is provided from Gateway MSC. This is the role of Gateway MSC. Network subsystem also includes some databases to keep the data of subscribers and their locations. So one database is HLR. Okay, HLR, Home Location Register, is the main database of the GSM system. At the time of GSM connection, for activation of services, the subscriber data is created in the HLR. When you are taking a new connection, the information about the customer, the user, the subscriber, and some more details like IMEI, IMSI are stored in HLR, Home Location Register. HLR is the permanent database of all subscribers of an LSA within the state or LSA. So it will have a permanent database of all its users. If a mobile service provider is having say 10 lakh connections in one state, the entire database of these 10 lakh users, it is incorporated or it is available in the home location register pertaining to that LSA. Generally, there is one HLR for each and every LSA. That is for Andhra Pradesh. Of course, in case of Andhra Pradesh, as far as telecom is concerned, it is AP plus Telangana, Karnataka, MP, Madhya Pradesh, like that. Then VLR. The VLR is always integrated with the MSC. That is, VLR is co-located with the MSC. So as you can see here, the VLR, Visitor Location Register, is part and parcel of MSC. It is co-located with the respective MSC. Each and every MSC will have one VLR. When a mobile station roams into a new MSC area, the VLR connected to new MSC would request data about the mobile station from its parent HLR. Later, if the mobile station makes a call, the present, that is the new VLR, has the information needed for call setup without having to interrogate the parent HLR each and every time. Okay, Then VLR contains the informations like they have given here. Before that, we will try to understand this concept about VLR. So each MSC is provided with one VLR. Suppose if you are moving from one MSC area to other MSC area, so at that time, the VLR of the new MSC will take the database information, the information about the subscriber from the parent HLR. For example, from Vijayawada, I am moving to say Bangalore, the VLR of MSC Bangalore will take the my user data and other details from the MSC located in my area, from Vijayawada area. For my Vijayawada area, suppose Guntur is the MSC. So from Guntur HLR, from Guntur HLR, the parent HLR, VLR will take the database. So each LSA will have one HLR. So Bangalore is another HLR. So it will take the information, the VLR takes the information from AP HLR and stores in it, so that whenever the user, as long as he is in the VLR of Bangalore, so the calls can be, the user can make calls, and VLR need not always ask the information from its original or parent HLR. So that is how the VLR functions. VLR contains information like identity of the mobile subscriber, that is mobile subscriber details, then ISDN directory number of the mobile, that is the MSISDN. So VLR will have this information, subscriber details, MSISDN. Similarly, a directory number to route the call to the roaming station, that is as we have already studied. So it will have the details of MSRN. The new VLR will also have the MSISDN, MSRN. Then within the network subsystem, we have what is known as Authentication Center, or AC Authentication Center. Authentication Center is another database of the NSS, and it is used to authenticate a SIM into the network. A subscriber is allowed into the network after it is authenticated in the AUC. So AUC authenticates the user whether he is a valid user or not, whether he can be permitted or not. So after its approval only, so the user is allowed either to make calls or receive calls. Then apart from that, we have one register, Equipment ID Register, EIR, as part of NSS. Equipment ID Register consists of identity of mobile station equipment called IMEI. So all the IMEI numbers will be stored in the EIR, which may be valid, the suspect, and prohibited. So IMEIs can be of three categories, which is valid one, no problem, suspected, it is under observation, and prohibited, which is not allowed due to some reasons. When a mobile station accesses the system, the equipment validation procedure takes place before providing the services to the mobile user. So from EIR, so it will be authenticated, so whether this particular IMEI can be allowed into the network or not, so that he can make and receive the calls. The information is available in the form of three lists. So ER will have three types of lists. One list, white list, the normal mobile equipment that can be allowed to connect to the network. So it is normal. So there is no restriction, he can be permitted. So in the network. Gray list, the terminal or the mobile equipment that is under observation from the network for the possible problems. Due to some problems, it is under observation. So such numbers list will be available in the gray list, list number 2. The third list is block list. As the name itself, so this IMEI or this mobile equipment is not allowed into the network. The terminals MEs reported as stolen or not type approved, these are in the block list. Suppose if they are stolen and some complaint is there, so they will not be allowed in the network. Suppose it is not a proper type which is approved, so then also, so you are blacklisted. You are not allowed to make calls. You are not allowed to access the mobile network. They are not allowed to connect to the network. ER informs the VLR about the list of a particular IMEI that is intending to access the network. So ER always informs about the status of a particular mobile equipment, whether it is in whitelist, grey list or blacklist. Accordingly, whether they will be allowed into the network or they may not be allowed into the network. Then operation and support subsystem. OS is a server used to monitor the network performance. So it is meant for monitoring the network performance. OS is connected to all the BSCs and MSCs in the network of an LSA in a LAN bar WAN mode. So all BSCs and all MSCs are connected to OSS in a local switching area. In a state, roughly we can say, all the BSCs, MSCs in a state are connected to OSS. Then OMC, Operation and Maintenance Center, is part of the OSS and monitors the net round the clock. So OMC monitors the GSM network round the clock. So that is why it is known as OMC. The OSS provides fault management where alarms of the network entries are monitored so that corrective action may be taken. Whenever there is a fault in the network, suppose one base station has failed due to different reasons like power supply failure or the interconnection with BSC is cut off due to some fiber cut or cable cut or link failure. So it maintains the all the details of the fault details. So it also helps in not only in monitoring but also in taking some corrective action. OSS also provides network reports which may be used to analyze the network performance. So it provides certain reports like daily reports, weekly reports, monthly reports like that, so that the supervisory staff, the controlling staff, they can view the network reports and take corrective actions. So for within 24 hours, what are the BTSs failed in the network? So what are the reasons? So what is the corrective action to be taken? All these things are possible with the help of OSS. As the OSS is connected to all network elements, it is also used to control, configure the network entities. So since OSS is connected to, for example, BSC and to BTS also, so it is possible from OSS you can configure the network elements like BTS and BSC. For example, you can add a particular radio channel to BTS, or you can reduce it, or when it is powered off, so it can be switched off remotely with the help of OSS. Now we will look into GSM handover. Earlier we have discussed in general about the handover concepts as far as the mobile communication is concerned. Now here we will look into the handover mechanism specific to GSM. What are the objectives of handover? Why handover is at all required? This is to minimize the number of calls dropped, to reduce the call drops, to maintain a good quality of speech, so it will ensure you are in a better covered cell area and the speech quality is good, to minimize the amount of time that the mobile station is in the best cell among the 2 or 3 base stations. It will ensure that from which base station you have better connectivity as far as signal strength is concerned, as far as the noise interference is concerned. So all these things it will take into consideration for handover. To minimize the number of handovers. So on the top of it, it will also ensure that the number of handovers are as minimum as possible so that the load on the network is minimized. So these are all the objectives of handover. Now we will try to understand when a handover takes place. The handover bar handoff takes place under the following conditions. When the distance between the mobile station and the base station becomes too long. So when you are far away from the base station, so the propagation delay will be more and the attenuation will be more. So that is one criteria for handover. If the received signal level is very low, more attenuation. Suppose if you are far away from the base station, so as the distance increases, the attenuation also increases. So based on the received level also, based on the condition of the attenuation also, the handover may take place. If the received signal quality is poor due to noise bar interference also, so the handover may take place. No doubt signal strength is good, but signal to noise ratio is poor and there is a lot of interference from other interfering networks. At that time also, the handover has to take place to the other base station or other sector where this problem is less. Then, path loss situation for the mobile station to another base station is better than the present BTS. Okay, you are in one BTS, the loss say you are getting say minus 100 dBm from the base station to which you are latched. Adjacent to that, there is another base station. The power level you are receiving from the other base station is better in the sense, for example, I will say minus 90 dBm. Then with respect to first base station for which you are latched, the power level of the next base station or the power you are receiving from the next base station is 10 dB better. So at that time also the handover can take place. So these are the different criteria based on which the mobile handover or handoff can take place. Further, we will study about GSM handover. Handover is the process of automatically switching a call in progress, that is more important, from one traffic channel to another traffic channel to neutralize the adverse effects of the user movements. So because of the user movements, any adverse effects will lead to handover. So the handover technically indicates that the handover process is from one traffic channel to other traffic channel. You are migrating from one existing traffic channel to other traffic channel. The traffic channel may be of other sector, it may be traffic channel of other base station, like that. In GSM, the handover process is known as MAHO, Mobile Assisted Handover. Mobile Assisted Handover. This is the handover process as far as GSM is concerned. The process starts with the downlink measurements by the mobile station, that is, strength of the signal from the BTS, quality of the signal from the BTS. So, mobile station always measures the signal strength from the base station, how much signal it is giving, what is the strength and what is the quality of the signal from the base station. MS can measure the signal strength of 6 best neighboring BTS downlinks, that is called candidate list, and report to the network. So the GSM mobile can measure the power levels or the signal strength from 6 base stations simultaneously, not only the base station to which it is latched connected, and another 5 base stations it can measure, and it can report to the network. So I am getting power levels, signal condition like this from this base station like this, second base station is like this, third base, and so on, up to 6 base stations it reports. Based on this report, the network may take decision for handover. Based on these measurements, the MS initiates the handover and then the network facilitates the handover. So based on the signal condition, the MS initiates or requests for handover, and the handover is either accepted or rejected by the further network. So the network facilitates the handover. The initiation is by mobile station in general and facilitation by network. So that is how the handover, GSM handover takes place. Now we will look into GSM handover types. There are 2 types of handovers. So there are 2 main types as far as GSM handover is concerned. One is internal or intra-BSS handover. That is the handover within the BSC, because each BSC n number of BTS are served by one BSC. So internal or intra-BSS handover means, suppose in a BSC, if there are 50 base stations, so the handover within the base station or within these 50 base stations is known as intra-BSS handover or internal BSS handover. So further, this can be further classified as type A, type B. Intra-cell handover, sector to sector in the same BTS. Here you can see number 1. So within the base station, the user is moving from one sector to the other sector. So the handover takes place from, say for example, from sector 2 to sector 3. This is known as intra-cell, intra-BTS handover. Within the BTS only handover is happening. The second type is inter-cell handover, one BTS to other BTS in the same BS. So since it is internal or intra-BSS handover, the handover takes place within the same BSC. So suppose the user is moving to this direction. So from this base station to this base station, handover takes place, which is indicated by 2. So both BTS are connected to same BSC. So within the BSC only handover is happening, but between 2 base stations. Here base stations are different. Then the other one is external or inter-BSS handover between 2 BSCs. The handover happens between 2 different BSCs. Here also there are 2 subcategories. Intra-MSC handover, that is different base stations BSCs in the same MSC. So within MSC, there are number of BSCs. So the handover between two BSCs served by the same MSC is called intra MSC handover. Within the same MSC it is happening. You see the third one. So the user is moving, say, from here to say here, or from here to here, whatever it is. So he is connected to different BTS and he is connected to different BSC, because the BSC is not the same, but the MSC is the same. So within the MSC, between two BTSs, served by two BSCs also. So it is called external, or within the external it is called intra-MSC. Intra means within the MSC. Then the B is inter-MSC handover, that is between two MSCs. Here if you can see the fourth one, so from 1 to 4 he is moving. Here first BTS is different. The handover is between two BTS, and BSC is also not the same. This is one BSC, this is the other BSC. This is served by one MSC, this is served by other MSCs. So the handover between two MSCs is this type, MSC, inter-MSC handover, inter-MSC and handover between two MSCs. Internal handover is managed by the BSC and external handover is by MSC. So whenever handover is within the BSC, internal handover process is controlled by base station controller. So external handover is controlled by MSC, mobile switching center. So internal handover is governed by the respective base station controller, whereas inter-MSC handover is controlled by the mobile switching center. Then let us look into the summary what we have discussed. We have seen what is base station subsystem. Then we have we understood about NSS network subsystem, network switching subsystem, consisting of home location register, visitor location register, authentication center, and equipment identity register. Then we have seen the GSM handover concept and specific to mobile assisted handover, where the handover takes place based on the measurements taken by the mobile instrument. Then we have seen the types of handover. That is inter BSC handover, or internal handover, or external handover. Internal handover happens within the BSC, controlled by BSC, external or within the MSC, whereas external handover will be controlled by MSC between two MSCs. So if you like my video, please subscribe to my channel, for which link is provided here. So I thank you. We will end this session for today.